Boom. Welcome to OKSB Boom Podcast. I'm your host, Drew. I'm here with my guest, Cornell.
Yo. What's up?
Welcome back. It's been a little bit. It's been a little bit. Anything new? Any updates with you?
Starting a new work venture, more on the corporate side.
Yeah?
Yeah, over at UHS.
Oh, okay.
Their revenue cycle, so I'm going to be doing some work over there with them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it like working with their numbers, working with their books?
Yeah, working with the books, working with the patients, making sure that people pay what they're supposed to pay, talking to the other revenue cycles between like UHS, Lords, and other people, making sure everything stays on point.
Right.
Yeah, and also the credit reports too. And if you're too late, got to talk to the credit company. So I'm actually pretty excited about that because I want to get like an inside scoop on exactly how the credit system works, not just Credit Karma and all these other people who say pay this and we'll promise to raise your credit score. Actually getting talking to somebody who's working on the inside. Okay, what's really going on over there?
Right. Yeah. Because like from the outside, you only have one side of the story, and you be thinking like these people are just some assholes.
Right.
But now you got a different view on things.
Exactly. Like how late does the payment have to be before you start taking stuff down? Do you actually forgive stuff? How does this work? I'm trying to build mines back up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel that. So I was gonna talk about this. I think we'll do this topic next. But since we're like on the topic, you're talking about a new work venture, right? And with that comes like a lot of stress, I'm sure, right? Mm-hmm. Anything new, usually that's when things get real stressful, right? When things are new, when you're kind of out of your element, when you're starting something new in life. I've been kind of feeling that way too, honestly. Like that's a big reason why we haven't been uploading the way that we have is because now I'm working full time, right? So I'm going to school full time and I'm working full time. And a bitch is stressed. It's stressful. And it's so weird because, coming from a military background, you would think like, oh, dude, like school and just like a regular job, that should be easy, right? That should be a breeze compared to, what you've been through before. But it's a different type of stress. I don't think all stress is necessarily the same.
I think with a military background, it's more situational stress you could deal with, but when you have multiple, what you're going through, I call like lifestyle interchanging. So you got school going on, so that's one lifestyle. Then you got your job, that's another lifestyle. You got to balance them both. Right. Plus we got got to work the podcast, and that's you don't want things to start. You don't want the lines to start blurring.
Right.
So in order to compartmentalize each lifestyle, it would take a toll, I would believe.
Yeah, for sure. And then it got me thinking, how is it that, when I think about my time in the military and now my time now, it's like both something that had in common, it was stress, right? And how we deal with that, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to lie, when I first got out, my go-to, right, like a lot of men, I'm sure, was the bottle. Right. It was just, all right, I'm stressed out. Here we go.
What can alleviate my stress as soon as possible?
The fastest way to alleviate the stress. Right. And it sucks, right? Because I want to get to a place where, especially for men, that we don't have to go there, right? Like that's not our go-to, And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it is difficult to stay on the straight and narrow because despite the fact that, I'm in the gym more than I probably ever have been before, it seems like it's still not enough, like with the stress, it's still not enough. And I used to be the type of person that used to judge people, when I was younger and I didn't have as much life experience, I guess I used to judge people for the way that they used to handle stress. But it's easy to judge when you're not playing the field, you know what I mean?
Right.
When you're a couch coach, per se, in life, and you're just sitting back and watching and judging like, oh, wow, they did what to cope? Man, that's weak.
Yeah, when you're looking from the outside, you're not the one that's actually going through the situation. things may seem a lot more clearer to you. But like you said, once you're on the field, once you're getting your hands dirty, and it's like, okay, maybe this is what that person was going through. My, outside solution doesn't fit this problem. Now I got to think, I got to scramble, I got to think outside the box, and it may not work. Like you're saying, you go into the gym, physical exertion, just getting it out, sweat. Yeah. Not enough. Maybe there's another outlet that could help vent that stress for you.
Yeah.
And that's just one of the typical things. People say, when you're stressed out, go work it out in the gym, go push the weights, get it out your system.
Right.
It's not a one-size-fits-all type of thing. So, like I said, maybe there's something else.
Yeah. I think another thing that kind of compounds the problem of stress is the fact that we have this kind of social pressure on men to constantly prove our worth, right?
Right.
Like we don't have the luxury. You know what I mean? Like we don't have the luxury to take an easy route. Whatever we do, we're going to have to earn it. We're going to have to then provide for others after the fact, right? And I think that people underestimate what kind of burden that has in the back of every child's mind, even a young boy, once he starts getting older and realizing the truth of the world and realizing like, oh, wow, I'm going to have to create wealth. I'm going to have to create value because I can't, society, that's how I prove myself. If I want love, I need to do it this way. You know what I mean? Which is usually through either work or money go hand in hand, right? And it's just always in the back of our heads, like that pressure. You know what I'm saying?
It's interesting you bring it up. Even as when you're young, you don't realize that there's a constant 24/7 social pressure as a boy, that the competition is always on. You know, there's no time for, soft mediation. Just keep it pushing. Get up, walk it off, stop crying, suck it up and keep pushing.
Yeah.
And then when you transition into your teenage, into your early adulthood, then that pressure just ramps up, because now it's like you said, what are you worth?
Yep.
What can you do? What can you offer? What do you come with? And it's not just your work that's asking you that, like a resume or anything. You now have a life resume that you have to fulfill. Whether it comes to your relationships, and the women, it's okay, what do you bring to the table? Can you provide for me? God forbid you pick up somebody with a kid, and can you provide for me and my kid? It might not even be yours. And it's just whatever entanglement comes, what do you bring? What is your worth?
Right.
And I think that's what the measurement is for men.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think a large part of the reason why we have so much mental health and substance abuse issues is because we don't really have like outlets or voices, right? It's just not taken as seriously. It's not heard as much. And even if we do express ourselves, sometimes somebody will take it personally if it makes the other person sound bad. You know what I mean? Like if I bring up the fact that I want you to hold your end of the bargain, speaking to a woman, if it makes her sound bad, it's me that's the problem. It's not the problem in and of itself. And I think that a large part of our stress comes from the fact that we don't have the luxury to sit back and ponder on certain things. You know what I mean? Like there's just this constant pressure to perform and to keep going. I mean, shit, even in the bedroom, you know what I mean? Like we, you know what I'm saying? You want to take a break? You want to lay down for once? Yeah. Nah, you got 2 good minutes.
Yeah, then you better start that next round up soon.
You got 2 good minutes of laying on your back before you got to switch it out, and yeah. It's just one of those things.
It's we don't. Only in recent times do I see like men self-help groups.
Yeah.
You know, born in the 80s, growing up in the 90s, the 2000s, you don't have that area, that safe space where guys can just come and vent. Like, okay, you know what? I'm going through it right now. And I don't think I can keep going. It's something where you can look for help, something where you can look for other people that's going through your situation. You know, because then that looks as a sign of weakness. You know, you can't perform. You can't keep up. You're not up to the task. What good are you as a man if you're giving up? You have to keep, and it's like, okay, can I vent? Can I take a break? You know, where can I go? And then the people say, what do you exactly? Go to the gym, join a sport. Physical exertion. It's always that physicality of it. Yeah. You know, instead of having that mediation where it's like, I just want to talk. I got feelings too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And another thing with that, you know, when it comes to talking and stuff like that, I noticed, especially my time in the military, is that oftentimes we would mix the alcohol with our real feelings.
Right.
But what comes with that is when you wake up the next morning, you could just chalk it up to the alcohol. You know what I mean? There's almost like this sense of guilt when you wake up the next morning of you being your true self, your authentic self, and maybe crossing the line with a guy friend or whatever and saying some real shit, but then you wake up and it's almost like having meaningless drunken sex. Almost like it almost has that connotation behind it.
It wasn't real, or it wasn't me. That was the alcohol talking. Nah, I'm good. Like, what's your typical response if somebody said, "What's up, man? How you been?" I'm good.
Good.
Chilling.
Yeah.
I'm fine. You know? Honestly, if somebody was to unload, the person asking that question may not be ready for what you're about to unload.
No.
But then I think it's who is asking that question. You know? If it's just like casual conversation, you go to work, you see a coworker, hey, what's up, man? How you been? I didn't see you since last week. I'm good, man. How are you? All right. Casual talk. But if somebody that's close to you, somebody you've known for years, you know, or somebody that has gone through the same thing that you've gone through, you know, and they say, hey, how's it been? And you're like,
yeah.
Just that alone. Not your typical, hey, mom, right? Just that exhale. That, damn, somebody finally asked how I'm doing. And
for real.
For real. And now I have this opportunity to just give them a little bit, man. It's tough.
Yeah. In this world, there's givers and there's takers. And I feel like we're just living in a time where the ratio of takers is outpacing the givers. And I feel like now the burden is being pressed upon people who genuinely feel good about helping other people, you know, but then there's a lot of people to help. And a lot of the times those same people are going through it the most, but they understand that their role in society, like they're the ones that people call. They're the ones that, you know, people ask for advice. They're the ones who are trying to help other people. And oftentimes it's sad because they don't want to feel like a burden on somebody else just for saying like, hey, like, do you have a second? Because somewhere along the lines, somebody in the back of their head was like, no, that's not your role. That's not you, baby. That's me. I'm the mess up. I'm the bad guy here. You got to listen to me and my problems.
Yeah, I'd like to touch on what you're saying. Sometimes if you've been through a situation and then you see somebody else in that same situation, it's not so much as an obligation, but you feel compelled to like, well, I've been there, you know?
Just as a human.
Here, what can I do to, you know, help you out? I know what you're going through. And then you got the people who are not legit. You got the takers, you know, so I'm going to make it seem like this is what I'm going through because I know person A is going to hand over help, supplies, cash, whatever, and I can benefit off that. And then I'm going to pivot over to somebody else who go through the same thing. You know, taking advantage of that type of emotional altruism. You know what I'm saying? So it's take the Black Lives Matter movement, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in recent news, they pocketed so much money off of that whole movement.
Where'd it go?
Where's the money?
Where'd it go?
They're going to buy, fancy cars, houses, multiple estates. It's not being disseminated to where it was, but they took advantage of the people who are willing to give, the people who actually went through the situation, and then it makes those type of people look bad. It looks, at a certain point, you don't want to give anymore.
Right.
You don't want to donate. You don't want to support a cause because of that. You feel like you've been taken advantage of.
Like, you get jaded.
Yeah.
And then and then it almost makes you cynical.
So, and then what happens to the people who genuinely need that help?
Right.
You were once in that position to help, and now you pulled back, and now more people are pulling back.
Right.
And pulling back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I've definitely dealt with feelings of becoming cynical, like just after so many experiences, you just start to get that cynicism, I think is the word, in the back of your mind towards people and towards certain situations. But then you also have to think, if everybody starts thinking like that, then where are we? You know what I mean? Do you want to be the light in the darkness, or do you want to just create more shadows?
A certain sense of, I don't want to say paranoia, skeptical, maybe?
Yeah, skepticism.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that's natural. You can't go with blind trust. That's how you get taken advantage of. That's how you get eaten out there, But, and when it builds up, you don't, at a certain point, you don't even trust your own feelings. Like, you feel like, hold on. Last time that didn't work out so well. Nah, I'm good. Now it's you're more cold, you're more jaded. So everything that comes across you is like, nah, I'm good. And then what happens is you transition into that same person. If it doesn't benefit me, I'm not.
Yep. You become the opposite. You become exactly what you didn't want in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like just how even like with male friendships, like I feel like men have a really hard time when it comes to sometimes being them true authentic self, because maybe it didn't work out in the past. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, even for me, I've had situations where like maybe I messed up once, right? But all of a sudden, like, I'm ostracized, I'm kicked out of the group, whatever. But then like everybody else gets a pass, everybody else gets forgiven, but I do something, and now all of a sudden, like, I'm out.
You're the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. So it just stuff like that, and it kind of hurts and stuff. But hey, it is what it is. At the same time, it's like, what do we do with the stress, especially when we live in a culture where, the pressure really is on us. I know for me, I never want to go back to substance abuse. Obviously, I'm never going to say I'm not going to drink another beer ever again in my life. But I just can't in good faith go back to substance abuse knowing that I would tell somebody else not to do that. You feel me?
Well, that's the tricky part, because you've been through it. So let's say, for example, I come to, I'm in a depressive state, and I'm telling you, listen, man, I've been hitting the bottle lately. Because it just numbs my mind. I don't have to think about it.
Right.
Now, you're in a position where you've lived through that, scenario.
Can empathize.
You can empathize with it. It's like, I understand where you're coming from, but that's temporary. You can offer your advice, or you can wall it back, because the last person you gave advice to threw it back in your face. Well, I'm not like you. I'm not going to do that, And because you opened up, and they took advantage of your sincerity, now when it comes to me, like, you know what? Yeah, I hear you, and then that's the end of the sentence.
Yeah. Yeah. How would you go about that? Like, say somebody says they're depressed, and everybody has their own definition of depression. How do you think that you would go about that, with somebody else? Because I remember when I was depressed, man, like, nothing else really mattered. Like it didn't. What people were saying was almost like landing on deaf ears, to be honest. And I didn't want to tell them that they were wasting their breath and stuff like that. But I remember the depression was so bad that it's almost like I just wanted to wallow in it. And I just always think, what do you think is like the best way to get somebody out of that, or to go about that? It's tough.
That's the best way to help somebody out of their depression is, I would say, is to just be on standby. Because like you said, when I had my down state, I felt comfortable, sort of say, in just being miserable, just being sad, accepting it is what it is at this point, and that's what life is going to be. And people would say, come outside, come try to do this, try to do that, and it was like,
dude, I can't even get out of bed. You want me to go play basketball?
I can't even get out of bed. And it's crazy. This happened to me at an early stage in my life where I wasn't even, it wasn't even like college yet. I was just like, as a teen, sad because of whatever, parental situation and stuff like that. And one of my good friends literally dragged me out the house, like physically. Yeah. Came to my house and just dragged me out and took me and introduced me to some other people, whatever, who actually ended up turning into be who I consider brothers at this point. Yeah. He just dragged me out and took me into a different environment until he kept doing it day after day after day, to the point I didn't want to open the door because I knew what he was going to do. But I trusted him,
Yeah.
And he was just on standby. Whenever I decided to open the door, whenever I decided to let him in, he came with that positive energy, So you got to wait. I would say you got to wait for that person to just be ready to accept, because other than that, it could be smothering.
Yeah.
You don't want to smother. They're already under so much of whatever they're going through. You don't want to smother them. But whenever they do decide to extend their hand out, be ready to grab it. Be ready to grab it and do what you got to do to pull them out that darkness.
Yeah, and be ready to listen, actively listening, and sincere. When I was in rehab once upon a time, there was like this picture or this diagram or whatever, and I'll never forget it. It was a hole. Somebody was at the bottom of the hole, and there was a ladder, and somebody was at the top of the hole, right? And then one said sympathy and one said empathy. And so basically, sympathy was standing at the top of the hole saying like, hey, come up over here. And then empathy, the second diagram, was the person going into the hole and sitting next to them down in the hole.
Right.
Saying, I'm here with you down here, but there's something else over here. And I think that really hit hard for me, because I think a lot of the times we get into this state of mind where we do it with good intention, where we want to get somebody out of that shitty spot so bad, and we're desperate to get them out. But the way we go about it sometimes is not correct, because what happens is that you're just trying to fling out solutions, right, as fast as possible, instead of getting down with that person, on their level, and hearing them out first before getting them towards a solution.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's why, when people, it's a fine line, right? It's a fine line, because a lot of motherfuckers be complaining about shit that don't matter. And that's another hard part about today's society, right? Because you don't know the difference between real depression and somebody who's just having a bad day now, because everybody takes to the internet saying freaking all types of crazy shit. Everybody has ADHD. Everybody's depressed and shit like that. But I guess just use your discernment and say, hey, this is real. Like, now that I've been really depressed, now I know the difference between like what a bad day is and what depression looks like.
Yeah. I would say some people, their tolerance for stressful situations, for, a series of unfortunate events, whatever, their tolerance is so low, they crack like under the smallest amount of pressure. And I say that not to diminish whatever situation they're going through, because I can't compare mine to yours, but I think some things are just not, they're not worth, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater at the worst sign.
Yeah.
So it's like, or at the earliest sign, I should say.
But sometimes you feel like an asshole, though. But sometimes you feel like an asshole because you're like, your problem isn't that bad.
It's not that bad. Like, there's people who are literally way worse off than this.
You could be in Ukraine.
You could be in Ukraine.
You could be in Ukraine, bitch.
You could be in Russia.
You could be in Russia, bitch.
And it's like,
yeah.
Come on, You got people. I'm one of my coworkers right now. I was talking to him, and the air got tense. We was in a group talk, and he was born here, but his parents are from Ukraine. And when he was talking stories, like, he still has family over there, that are literally out there making Molotovs.
Yeah.
And his parents came over here as refugees early, and it's like, so people want to say, when you have a typical conversation, when you find out with somebody, so did you go back to where your parents are from? Do you try to learn about their history, whatever? And then now, he's from Ukraine, so you don't ask him, you want to go back, or, do you have family still over there? Yeah, my uncle makes Molotovs.
Yeah. Rough,
but he has that upper spirit. He's not letting him beat him down, whatever.
Yeah.
Talking to his parents had that a more positive outlook, It's just that they are, there's certain factors that you can look at somebody else and compare to, hey, at least I'm not going through that,
Yeah. I think on a final point, I think that's one of the main things that got me out of certain situations is I hate to use other people's fucking pain, but just looking at the world, right? Putting my problems into perspective and saying it's not that bad. Like, no matter what you're going through, there's worse. And I know that a lot of people might not like that or whatever, but it's true. And, another thing is you can only help somebody so much. You know what I mean? I used to feel really guilty that I would leave people unresolved after a certain amount of time. But at the end of the day, you can only give so much, because at the end of the day, you cannot continue to give if you're not 100% yourself. And sometimes some people are like spiritual vampires, and they literally go feeding from person to person.
Yeah.
And when you recognize that, you gotta leave that alone.
You gotta protect your peace. It sucks, especially if somebody close to you. I say be on standby, but they have help when they're willing to accept the help. Yep. Because then you end up giving so much of yourself, you become unstable.
Yep.
You become distressed, and it's like you feel sad because you failed at helping them, especially with something relatable. So just be on standby, help when they're willing to accept the help, and protect your peace at the same time. That's also important.
Protect that peace. Mm-hmm. Boom.
We're doing a survey around the country on the way population handles themselves and speaks and deals with their friends and interact with their peers.